definitely a hard time to be a police officer in America today.
From use of force to alleged racial bias to a growing number of in-the-line-of-duty deaths, heated debates prompt renewed calls for better policies.
This department, there's no secret, has been through some rough times in the last few years, but we're rising.
Bay Area police departments committed to making important changes in the communities you live, but they need your help.
I don't think any of us are saying that we don't need to get better. We can have thoughtful changes that will work for society and work for us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Mibach, and thanks for joining us for our special On the Record sit down with the police chiefs from San Jose, San Francisco, and Oakland. Many in law enforcement say officers face more scrutiny today, more than ever before, especially when it comes to use of force. Whether it's justified or not, some deadly incidents have raised questions and protests across the country. For the second time in 6 months, I sit down with the police chiefs for a conversation about the biggest issues facing their departments and their relationships with the communities they serve.
I've been in it for 36 years. It's definitely a hard time to be a police officer in America today. The discourse is negative, a lot of toxicity, but I do have hope.
We'll talk about retention in a little bit, but what do you think, Chief Scott?
In the 60s, there were riots across this country almost daily, and the police were the target of a lot of the frustration at that time. Early in my career in Los Angeles, we had the Rodney King incident, and it was almost a similar type of environment. And there were some officers that decided to do other things, and now, you know, we have the issues that we face today. So I think it's cyclical, and I think we'll come out of this.
Chief Garcia, you hear the chatter at all?
Well, I do, absolutely. No different than the other chiefs do. But again, I truly believe, I mean, when I got hired in the early 90s, I remember old-time field training officers saying, oh, it wasn't like it was 15 years ago. And I'm sure when they started, they would say it wasn't like it, whoever trained them is going to say the same thing. You know, this isn't a job, this is a calling. You know, there's a certain type of individual that wants to put this uniform on. And I think there's expectations that arise. A lot of our recruits, they come in wide-eyed. They know what they're getting into. And I think every generation of law enforcement has to deal with different things. And yeah, we're under more scrutiny now. And we do need to get better as organizations.
Well, it seems there's some lawmakers in our state that basically want to tell your officers when or not you can fire, it seems these days. You may be familiar with the new bill up in Sacramento that's being debated that wants to change the standards as to when an officer can use deadly force. ACLU's been out there saying that the current law provides legal cover for police officers. What do you think, Chief, of this bill?
Well, first of all, let me just say that, you know, whenever there's an incident where an officer has to use their weapon, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy for the officer, it's a tragedy for the community, it's a tragedy for the individual who was fired upon's family. And we look at that. I think all of us want to be part of the solution. One of the things that, you know, as this bill was being introduced, quite frankly, I certainly don't remember being our opinion. I don't think a lot of the chiefs in California were spoken to, if any, about how we can move forward. This bill was just somewhat introduced.
And a number of chiefs have gone up to Sacramento to protest it. Just to interrupt you there.
No. Since then, absolutely. But, you know, it's a very difficult job that our officers do. And I really, truly think by giving them additional checklists, I mean, it makes their job a lot more difficult and a lot harder.
Should it not be your responsibility as chiefs to decide when your officers can fire? I mean, do you think it should be decided up in Sacramento?
I don't think any of us are saying that we don't need to get better and we need to be thinking through how we get better. If that calls for changes in legislation, then so be it. But I think what we all ask is that we be in on this conversation so we can have thoughtful changes that will work for society and work for us in terms of those of us that have to do the job. And this legislation, although I've read it, it adds some things that will be a significant change, like, you know, adding the language necessary. Right. And some departments already have policies like that, so it's not
That's
like
the debate, necessary versus reasonable,
right. So it's not like this is unheard of in law enforcement. It's a matter of when it becomes law, it changes the standard.
Do you support this bill?
Well, our law, our policy mirrors the law of the land. The United States Supreme Court has already weighed in on when should officers be able to use deadly force. So it has already been decided by the Supreme Court. Our policy mirrors that, and I think that any further discussion, we should be included in that debate.
It seems like this bill came about because of the shooting death of Stephon Clark in Sacramento. And just to remind our viewers about that incident, Authorities in Sacramento said an officer was responding to a report that a man had broken car windows, was hiding in a backyard. Police pursued the man, later identified as Clark, who hopped a fence into his grandmother's property. 2 officers shot 20 times, did not have a gun, had a cell phone. When it comes to use of force, and I'll start with you on this, Chief Kirkpatrick, because of the scene of going through yards.
Right.
Foot patrol policy. You guys changed your foot patrol policy 5-6 years ago. What is the policy now?
We don't give chase in situations where, unless there is a extreme risk of threat of harm to others. So whenever you chase, it does raise the risk. And so we have, most of our policies are designed to manage risks and to lower risks.
Your supervisors and commanders are expected to formally investigate nearly every violent encounter?
Nearly every violent encounter, yes.
Why is that?
Well, you know, the reality of it is for us...
Are you talking about like a fist fight? What's an officer gets in a scuffle? That's got to be investigated?
Well, if there's force used, it is investigated. If there's force used that causes broken bones, fractures, hospitalization, you know, blows to the head, unconsciousness, things of that nature, it's even further vetted. The reality of it is our use of force investigations that we would do in the past were triggered by complaints. Okay, so unless someone complained about them being, you know, that excessive force was used on them, you know, the department generally wouldn't look into take such a deep dive. Now what we're doing is we're saying we're better than that. You know, just because an individual doesn't complain, but you know, significant force was used, that needs to be investigated. And at this point now, those type of incidents get investigated all the way to the chief's office, where my assistant chief reviews it and makes a determination as to whether or not that incident should be referred to internal affairs or not.
Okay. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I do. Even though we've been talking about restricting the policy of use of force, even with the policy that we have today, which mirrors the law of the land, our use of force from 2012 to 2017 dropped 75%. And in this year alone, we've dropped an additional 48% on our use of force. So we know that our de-escalation tactics, we track every single form of use of force every day. I get a printout every day. So we look at all of our use of force. So de-escalation works, and so we think that's an important story to tell.
You believe your department's headed in the right direction when it comes to this?
Absolutely.
Chief Scott, your department made some headlines recently when you had an armed robbery suspect, Jesus Delgado, hiding in the trunk of a car in the Mission. Police say that he fired 1 shot, as do witnesses, toward the officers. The officers responded by firing back nearly 100 times. Got some heat in the community for that because of the amount of gunfire from the officers. Do you think it was a little excessive in that particular incident?
Well, that case is still open and under investigation, so we have to let that process take its course. You know, we did have a town hall and we heard from the community, and there some good points were raised. I mean, there was some concern with the number of rounds fired, and that's something that we got to look into in terms of the investigation.
So I was watching one of the town hall meetings, and there was a woman in that meeting. She said that she hears a lot of talk about police reform, but she hasn't seen any changes when it comes to your department. Do you agree with that? That woman?
No, I don't agree with that. I mean, I don't agree with that at all. There has been significant changes, even with our use of force policy. I mean, other chiefs spoke on policies. December 2016, our use of force policy was drastically changed. We've seen also significant decreases in use of force, and there has been progress on reform. I mean, we still have a long way to go, and make no mistake about it, but there's been significant amount of progress.
Seems like police departments, or at least yours, you're not like the private country club anymore. Seems you are opening up your doors a little bit more and showing video of body cameras and so forth, but I mean, that's what we have to do these days, I guess.
Yeah,
or you guys do.
Yeah, we have to be as transparent as the law allows.
So. The right thing to do.
Coming up next, we talk response times. We talk California's sanctuary laws, where the chiefs stand on the political pushback from the Trump administration, and why they say undocumented immigrants should never fear calling for help.
We are not here to enforce federal immigration law. We're not. Which is completely separate from what I think a lot of people think, that when I make a statement like that, that I am in some way protecting criminals that are around the community. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Bring your project to life at Airport Home Appliance at our second annual spring remodel event. We've gone to all our major brands to provide you with deals we couldn't offer on our own. Replace one or all kitchen and laundry room appliances on any budget, like stainless steel kitchen packages as low as $19.99 or front-load laundry units as low as $5.99 each. Now is your chance to save hundreds, even thousands of dollars at Airport Home Appliance and Mattress. Unbeatable price, selection, and people.
Legendary jockey Victor Espinoza is insatiable when it comes to competing. So is his horse when it comes to snacking. That's why he uses the Chase mobile app to pay practically anyone at any bank. Life lived Victor's way. Chase, make more of what's yours.
When you put your family's name on everything you make certain everything's just right. It's been that way for 4 generations with the Fellows family, and why our award-winning sit stand is transforming today's workspaces. The Fellows sit stand is smarter by design and features our patented smooth lift technology that adjusts up and down with ease. So if you want precision engineering that stands the test of time, we're the Fellows to talk to.
Then, the 10 o'clock news was 30 minutes. Now, we produce more than 12 hours of local news daily, celebrating 60 years. KTVU Fox 2.
Welcome back. Now to the controversial topic of sanctuary policies and the federal government's fight against them. And the backlash hit home recently after the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against the state of California over its practices. This move came after Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf's decision to warn undocumented immigrants about a planned raid. I spoke to the chiefs about their views on this subject and the policies their departments enforce, and they say regardless of your immigration status, you should never be afraid to call for help. As leaders of your agencies, what was your reaction to the Attorney General of the United States on that particular day in Sacramento, coming here and the message he delivered? I'll go with you, Chief Garcia, first.
Well, you know, it really goes contrary to the message that we've been trying to send out to our community. I know myself, and as well I'm sure the other chiefs have gone really publicly out to their communities to explain that we are not here to enforce federal immigration law. We're not. Which is completely separate from what I think a lot of people think, that when I make a statement like that, that I am in some way protecting criminals that are on their community. Nothing could be further from the truth. We're here to protect our otherwise law-abiding, undocumented residents that live in San Jose. We cannot run our police departments with our population scared of calling the police.
And that was the whole history for a lot of these sanctuary cities, right? Was to see, you know, if you had a brief encounter with officers, you witnessed a crime, that we're not going to talk about your status. We want to use you as a witness, possibly, if you're an undocumented immigrant.
Exactly. I mean, we need people to be civically engaged. If they witness a crime, they need to report it. If they are a victim of a crime, they need to report it, and without fear of what's going to happen to me in terms of my immigration status. And there's other issues as well. I mean, healthcare, schooling, education, all these things that when people have access to it, we are a healthier community as a whole. So the issues go beyond law enforcement. I mean, for me, it's not a political issue. It's the right thing to do.
Okay. Chief Kirkpatrick?
I have to agree with that statement. It's not the politics of it. It is the right thing to do. When people are victimized, they're victims, and they need to be able to call out and trust us and know that we're going to serve them. We do not care about their immigration status. We can't enforce it. We don't desire to enforce it, and it's unequivocal that Oakland's values support Sanctuary City, and as their chief, I'm absolutely supportive of the values of my city.
Do undocumented immigrants come forward these days?
Yes.
They still do?
They do.
To call in a crime or say I'm a witness to a crime?
But we do know they're fearful. And the fear is there, and so we do know that there are people who don't come forward, but we still have people who are reaching out. Okay. We do provide U visas to those who are victims or of certain crimes, and so we don't provide that U visa. We help facilitate them getting U visas.
All right, let's talk response times. Last time you guys were here, you all agreed that you could do better on this. So 6 months later, here comes the grade, right? I want to see what have you done over the last 6 months to make your response times better in the city? We'll go with you, Chief Scott.
Well, so one of the things that we've done, and since we've talked last, we have increased our foot patrols. We almost doubled our foot patrols from about 76 to almost 150 since we last spoke. And part of that was in response to having the visibility to push down some of our car break-ins on that issue, and we've seen some success with that. Yes, we have. We've seen some success on that. But the other thing is, about 20% of our calls are related to homeless-related issues. So we knew that going in, that we had to have a more thoughtful response with that. So in the city, we've created this collaborative effort. It's called the Healthy Streets Operations Center. Basically, it's a daily command post with other city departments as well. Department of Public Works, Department of Public Health, Police Department. We sit in, we have every one of those agencies have personnel in this command post, and what we are trying to get at is a more coordinated response to some of these calls for service.
San Jose, are you getting worse or are you getting better?
We're getting better, but one of the reasons we're getting better is, quite frankly, is we're hiring. And I know you alluded to talk about retention earlier, but
we can dive into it if you want.
Well, we're rising. This department, there's no secret, has been through some rough times in the last few years, but we're rising. I have, sometimes I call them kids, because as the academy's coming up, I ask them who wasn't born yet in 1992, and 75% of the class raises their hand. So it stings a little bit. But our academies have been full. We have over 40 that are leaving our field training program. I have 47 that graduate on Friday. I just hired 5 laterals. Police officers yesterday.
So you feel like you have a full squad, a full team.
Well, we're not there yet.
Compete.
But yes, we absolutely can. It makes us better. I mean, we're not where we want to be yet. We're not where we want to be yet, but we also aren't where we were 2 years ago. And so that in it by itself is really helping us and helping our officers respond, and knowing that they have assistance, and the community knowing that that we're here. And it's the message that we have to continue to send to them.
Chief Kirkpatrick, are you guys hiring? Are people coming in?
We took a lesson from San Jose, to be honest.
Great.
San Jose is doing some really great things. We sent a team down to say, what is San Jose doing? They're doing something right. And so we're trying to imitate a little bit of what San Jose is doing. So we are absolutely hiring. We have great needs in sworn and in professional staff and in dispatch. And without the team, we cannot improve our response times unless we have people there to service it. Now, we have improved by putting priority on our gun violence calls. We use ShotSpotter in our system, in our city, so we have improved our response times associated with gun violence calls for service. But we are also recruiting, we are hiring, and San Jose is great. We think we have something to be competitive with.
So is the morale, I mean, this kind of goes back to the top of our conversation, but what's the morale?
We're doing better in our agency, too. I think everybody went through some hard times with losing people.
Are people happy to come to work? Are your officers?
That's one of my #1 goals. I want people to be very happy that they came to work today. I want them to be proud of this patch. I want them to be proud of what they do. And I want them to feel good about themselves and feel good about their city and the people they serve. I want them to come to work and feel good and enjoy what they do and serve people well.
When I look in the mirror and you go through these trials and tribulations of the profession, you really have to go back to, why did you come here in the first place? Why did you take the job in the first place? And when you go back to that place, oftentimes you're able to deal with these frustrations. Do people still enjoy going to work? I think the vast majority do, and as evidenced by their work. I mean, I have stacks and stacks of captain's commendations that come through my office, and some great work is being done. Are there officers that feel frustrated? I can say surely there are officers that feel frustrated, but we have to keep moving forward and doing our job and work through those issues. And I think it goes back to, why'd you come onto the job? Most of us, when you ask that question, we came on to make a difference and to help people.
Coming up, does Chief Scott have interest in going back to Los Angeles? And what drives the relentless passion these three have for the job and the people they serve?
Through police work, I can do that. I can love on people, care about people, and be hopefully a peacemaker.
I think helping people, trying to make a difference, trying to make things better.
Right, I look down on my badge, and the chief band is pretty cool, but nothing makes me more proud than wearing that San Jose police badge.
Hey, want the fastest internet? Done. And now Xfinity Mobile's included. You could get up to 5 lines. You could save $400 or more a year, which you could spend on a funktastic music video. Dance party!
Simple, easy, awesome. Get started with Xfinity Internet now with more speed than ever for only $35 a month for a year when you bundle with TV. Ask how you can get $200 back when you add Xfinity Mobile. Click, call, or visit us today.
At Mattress Firm, we think of our customers as family. So we'd like to extend our friends and family savings to you. But don't wait. It's the final days to get an additional 20% off our already low prices on America's best-selling brands like Beautyrest or Serta. So you can take home a new Beautyrest Queen mattress and rest easy knowing you got it for less than $450. Act fast. The Friends and Family Sale ends Tuesday. Your budget stretches further at Mattress Firm.
Seresto, Seresto, Seresto.
Jake.
Seresto, Seresto, Seresto.
Whatever your dog brings home to you, it shouldn't be fleas and ticks. Seresto gives your dog 8 continuous months of flea and tick protection in an easy-to-use, non-greasy collar.
Seresto, Seresto, Seresto.
Oh, no, Jake.
Seresto.
8 months.
Seresto, Seresto, Seresto.
It's never enough to just open your business.
Nobody cares for me.
You need to get the word out. From business cards and banners to expertly packed shipments to mailboxes with a real street address. Everything your customers see tells a story. Go to the UPS store today for help.
Welcome back to On the Record, to sit down with Bay Area police chiefs. All 3 chiefs work 6, 7-day weeks, but when they do have some downtime, what do they eat? We discover their favorite meal, we discover their favorite movies, and when in uniform, what really fuels them to do the job they do, a job we asked Chief Scott whether or not he still has any interest in doing. Why did we ask? The Los Angeles Police Department is looking for a new chief.
You came from Los Angeles. You know the chief, Charlie Beck. He announced a retirement. Applications have been sent down there. Do you have any interest of going back to Los Angeles?
Well, you know, I'm focused on here. Yeah, I'm focused on here, and
you say you applied?
I'm focused on here. You know, I'll answer it that way. Look, part of my role is to run this police department and do it to the best of my abilities, and that needs to be my focus. So, you know, we got a lot going on in San Francisco, and you know.
So when we do this again in 6 months, will you be here at this table, Chief?
You tell me. So. You know, we do have a lot going on. You know, with the election is coming up, and you know, we'll see who the mayor is and all that. I can't answer some of these questions, but what I can answer is that I'm focused on being the best chief I can be and providing, you know, the best leadership I can for the city.
Okay, I got a few minutes left. So, voter-mandated measures aimed at decreasing the state's prison population. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, again, I think this goes back to, you know, the original issue we had with being involved in this process a little bit. I've made no secret in my city. I'm not a fan of Proposition 57, and there's a lot of things that we can do in that realm to fix that. I think the right individuals need to be in custody. I don't disagree with that one bit. But when you make a blanket statement about reducing prison population, I mean, I think to me anyway, it gives me chills.
Is there a connection between street violence today and that, you think?
Well, you know, from Prop 57, I mean, they just started, the early parole just started in August of last year. So I'm not going to tell you that that we can see what the impacts of Prop 57 are. I can tell you some of the other issues, whether AB 109 or some other things, we have seen some issues on that. But I think we need to be mindful about it. I think we need to have conversations about it. I think we need to have our community chime in on that as well. Some of the things that, as an example, that Prop 57 said we're going to do is not really what I think our community wanted, quite frankly. So it's really striking that balance to ensure that, you know, we're not a lock away, you know, put them away, lock away, and throw away the key on you know, our individuals. We want to rehabilitate our individuals, but we also want to keep our communities safe, and we have to strike that balance.
Before we go, just a couple questions about life. Favorite movie?
Oh, gosh, the last one I saw, I think, was the Poseidon Adventure. I don't know. I'm not much of a movie person, so I wouldn't be the person to ask.
Chief Scott?
Oh, man, favorite of all time? A Feel Good Man.
Yeah. It's a good one.
I gotta go with Heat. Best crime drama of my time. So I
What a scene. You know, turn up the volume of that one particular scene in Heat. Favorite food? What's your go-to? Your go-to meal?
I tell you, my go-to meal, and I'll say this, is I was born in Puerto Rico. My mom, I'm lucky enough to have my mom near me. My go-to meal is to ask Mom to come over and make me an old-fashioned Puerto Rican meal.
Awesome.
And it's usually bistec empanizado con tostones y arroz con tocino.
Can I come?
Absolutely.
Chief Scott, your go-to meal?
Ribs.
Ribs?
Yeah,
right.
barbecue. I love barbecue.
Big old ribeye.
Ribeye.
And potato.
Nice. Let me leave you with this. I told my son, I told you he was 7 years old, that I was doing this interview yesterday, and he wrote me a note that I found this morning, and it said, "Good luck about today with the Chiefs. Say good things. You're awesome, Dad." And then he drew a little picture with the four of us around the table. You know, things like this is kind of the fuel that drives me, that drives my engine, because, you know I can get better every day. And I love that because it's a reminder of what I do for a living. What's your fuel? What drives you to be a better chief every day, Chief Kirkpatrick?
I really mean this. I care about people, and so through police work I can do that. I can love on people, care about people, and be hopefully a peacemaker internally and externally. That is my fuel.
Chief Scott, your fuel?
I think helping people, trying to make a difference, trying to make things better. Yeah.
Chief Garcia, what drives you?
Well, it's a combination of helping people and then really looking at the faces of my men and women and the sacrifices that they put in. I mean, I know I say this a lot of us, but I mean, I'm very proud of this patch, and I have the luxury of having gone to our academy's final inspection yesterday and talking to each individual recruit that's going to graduate on Friday and seeing that smile on their face. And I tell you, I look down, I tell them, and I'll say this at the speech on Friday, I look down on my badge, and the chief band is pretty cool, but nothing makes me more proud than wearing that San Jose police badge. And that drives me, and I know the work that they do. It doesn't matter what we can sit here and say all day long. If the officer working at 3 in the morning on a Wednesday doesn't believe in what we're trying to do for our communities, it means nothing. So I think our men and women really drive me.
All right. Thank you for coming back, and keep charging.
Okay.
You're doing a great job in protecting your communities. Chief Scott, we'll see you in 6 months, man.
All right.
All right, we'll find out.
Okay.
Thank you all. For all of us here at KTVU Fox 2, I'm Mike Mibach. Thanks for joining us for On the Record, a sit-down with Bay Area police chiefs.